Welcome to the Yellow Spider Media Business Spotlight podcast, a chance for business owners to discuss what they do and what makes them special. Joining me today is Scott Christie, owner and founder of Hire Insight Ltd. Hi Scott, thanks for joining me. Hope you've had a good start to the week.
Yeah, thank you for asking me to this. I've been looking forward to it.
So you're founder of Hire Insight Ltd. Can you tell us what it is that you do?
We help hire companies with asset management, more the data side and information side of asset management.
And it's data that they've already got, isn't it?
Hire companies have lots of things going in and out because it's very transactional. They have this huge amount of data which aren't always used properly to aid decisions. A lot of decisions are made intuitively or through experience. And what I can do is help them make sense of that data.
How did you get into that industry?
Well, that's the industry I've been in for I think about 19 years. That's a sector that I help in the main. Part of it is almost a camaraderie that you're in this little club. Especially I was hyper niched into the rail industry, and plant hire is a niche of a niche. It is quite old school in lots of ways.
So it's very much a specialism of yours.
I think it's very different. It's a very different industry because what you're selling comes back. Most industries where you sell something, it goes out. Like retail, it goes out and rarely comes back. For hire, you send it out and then it comes back. Whatever you buy today has to be relevant in 3, 5, even 7 years time.
So it helps to be well informed about your purchases.
To make a big investment, you need pretty solid business case.
And do you find there's a particular moment when you're presenting the data to your clients where they have like a eureka moment and think, it suddenly makes sense to me now? Yeah,
there often is. The last one actually was my wife. She's doing a little side project. We're running a property business, deriving data from property websites and things. But it was that because I've been banging on about spreadsheets and the value of them for years, and then suddenly this has come along and she's seen how it can turn all this data that would take hours to sift through into something that you just click a couple of buttons and it's 5 seconds. It was an interest in the interactions, but when I understood what she wanted, I created this report for her. And she said, so I click on there, and I get everything I want. I call it decision-led data. So what decisions do you want to inform? Well, I want to know whether to buy this or not to buy it, or how many to buy, or whether to dispose of this, or whatever. Okay, what information do you need to help that decision? Well, we need to know the utilization or the revenue in the past 6 months, or whatever it is. Okay, how can we get the data to create that information to aid and inform the decision? Once we get that journey and the data to the information to the decision's it's an abrupt thing. So instantly, from all this sort of sea of data, and that it's often wow, right. I can really use this. This is really useful, really interesting. I've done it from small businesses with my friend and how many latte drinkers he had, right up to multi-million-pound capex decisions. That's part of the whole thing that I enjoy.
So without making light of how you use data for work, I find it incredible that you can use data to inform decisions within a marriage as well. Perhaps you could find something for household tasks like the washing up. You could say, look, I've run the numbers and I can't do it. It's not going to work. So I suppose it's cutting through the noise, isn't it? It's taking all the information and helping the businesses understand what it is that they're looking for.
Yeah, you've heard that data is the new oil. Well, crude oil in effect doesn't have that much value until you refine it, and you refine it according to the end use. So if you want petrol, you refine it to
Yeah.
You get all the different fractions out of crude oil, and they all have different uses. And I see it as a very similar journey with data.
I imagine traditionally you'd rely quite heavily on face-to-face meetings or face-to-face interactions. So how have you managed over the past 12 months?
Well, I think the hire industry is quite physical, i.e. it's bits of metal and everything going to and from site. It's quite a physical thing, and for me, one of my lead generators, if you like, was going to be trade shows. Not having those is tough.
Are there any virtual provisions for those kind of things?
Some, but it's haven't quite hit the mark really for me. But I think like everybody, we're finding our feet and we're getting a bit fatigue, if you like.
It's hard to know, isn't it? Because we filmed and produced a lot of virtual events over the past 12 months for various companies. And I think the main takeaway for everyone is it's great that we're finding an alternative, but it's not quite the same because you don't have that immediate feedback. I mean, you'll see it on a Zoom call. If the other person doesn't have their camera turned on, you have no idea how they're reacting to what you're saying. So however good these alternative methods are, I don't think they're ever going to replace the traditional face-to-face events and trade shows, is it?
I don't think so, because you don't see all people's body language, for one. People could be telling you things, promising you things, and they'd be crossing their fingers. But I think there's quite a bit to be done. Although I do think that this will be, I talk about plastic behavior and elastic behavior. Elastic behavior just snaps back into place, whereas plastic behavior, it leaves a dent. It leaves it doesn't snap the whole way back into place. And I think these meetings are quite plastic in that a lot of them will stick.
Yeah, I mean, what we've found is, not just clients, but end users as well are now getting used to doing things digitally, which I suppose leads me nicely onto, your marketing strategy. Have you found that you've had to change much because it's all online at the moment?
I've learned a lot about digital marketing. I like what someone like Gary Vaynerchuk says about giving away info and knowledge, and that then will generate almost the law of attraction or karma. So what you give away, you get back. And that's I've got some things lined up in that vein to establish some credibility and I know what I'm talking about. And so I think that's the basis of it. I've written a lead magnet and just in the process of finishing off writing from a website to update it with lots of stuff. And just getting a good foundation down to then kick off in February. I'm good at explaining things when talking to people and on a whiteboard, my little diagrams and things. So I thought I just need to make videos. So I've concentrated on making little 2-minute videos. A little mini series on sustainability I finished yesterday, which I'm going to film on Thursday.
That's amazing. So if we look on YouTube and type in Hire Insight Ltd, we'll find that series, will we?
YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And it won't be just about plant hire. Sustainability, it's sort of linked to plant hire, but it's about everybody. There's 5 different points.
All these David Attenborough shows and everything else has really struck a chord with people, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I think my 5 headings are innovation, efficiency, waste reduction, maintenance, and quality.
you're a consultant, you're often asked to advise and give advice. So can you remember receiving any business advice in your career that stuck with you, or is there anything that you've realised throughout your career and would love to pass on to others?
The more complex the problem you can solve, the more you get paid. I think that's an Elon Musk quote.
Right, so you're going for the most complex problems of them all, is that right?
Well, I think going back to digital marketing and me outsourcing that, I find that incredibly complicated, whereas other people don't. What I find intuitive and relatively simple, they might find it really confusing and difficult. And it's, me being part of their team. I think if you can see something where you can help people and solve other people's problems, then go for it. Keep quite focused, understand your customer, and if you can afford it, support your weaknesses with team members or other people. Marketing I find incredibly difficult, so that's why I've outsourced it.
Absolutely. I mean, freelancers and self-employed often find that they have this incredible network of strangers, whether it's your people that you're partnering with, whether it's somebody that's a supplier for you, or whether it's just the community of other freelancers on Twitter, for example. The support is out there, and I don't think it's anybody who starts a business on their own thinks it could be conceived as quite a lonely task, but it's doesn't have to be, does it?
No, and there are lots of networking things out there. And that has really shown me that the journey that I'm on, other people have done before, and other people are on it. And you get your high days and your low days. So yeah, there's a community out there that you can talk to and will support, even if they're not in a completely different industry or completely different life situation.
Great stuff. Well, I think that brings us nicely to the end of the podcast. So thanks again for joining me, Scott.
Pleasure. Thank you, John. Thanks for the opportunity again.
Thanks for listening to the Yellow Spider Media Business Spotlight podcast. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please get in touch at www.yellowspidermedia.com.